Imagine walking into a room and seeing a painting worth $50 million. It hangs quietly on the wall. No alarms, no guards standing next to it, no flashing signs. To most people, it's just a painting. But to some of the richest people on earth, it's something else entirely. It's a bank account, a tax strategy, a portable fortune, and sometimes a hiding place. Because while ordinary people put money in savings accounts, stocks, or real estate, the ultra-rich have discovered something incredible. A single piece of art can hold hundreds of millions of dollars, and often with far less scrutiny than almost any other asset on earth. Today, we're entering one of the most secretive corners of high finance, a world where billionaires buy paintings they never look at, store masterpieces in warehouses no one can enter, and move fortunes around the globe hidden behind canvases and sculptures. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a real system. And once you understand how it works, you'll never look at art the same way again. Because behind some of the world's most expensive paintings, there may be something far more valuable than beauty. Money. Lots and lots of money. Let's start with a simple question. Why art? Why would billionaires put billions of dollars into paintings? The answer is surprisingly simple. Because art doesn't behave like other assets. Think about your house. If you sell it, people can usually estimate its value. Think about shares of stock. Their price changes every second. But art? Art is weird. Its value is subjective. One person sees a canvas with paint splattered everywhere and says, "That's junk." Another person says, "I'll pay $100 million. And neither person is technically wrong, because there is no universal formula for valuing art. That uncertainty creates opportunity. A painting's value can rise dramatically, sometimes overnight, sometimes by hundreds of millions of dollars. And unlike many assets, art is portable. $100 million in real estate can't fit in an airplane. $100 million painting can. A billionaire can literally move enormous wealth around the world inside a wooden crate. And that's where things start getting interesting. Because the art world has always operated differently. Privacy is normal, anonymity is common, and secrecy is often expected. In 2017, something remarkable happened. A painting called the Salvator Mundi sold for approximately $450 million. $450 million. For one painting, that's enough money to buy private islands, sports teams, and luxury skyscrapers. Yet the entire transaction involved an object that could be moved by a few people carrying a crate. And this isn't an isolated case. The world's wealthiest collectors routinely pay extraordinary sums for art. Why? Because great artworks are rare. There will never be another original painting by Leonardo da Vinci. Never another original work by Pablo Picasso. Never another authentic masterpiece by Vincent van Gogh. Scarcity drives value. But scarcity isn't the whole story. Art also carries prestige, status, influence. Buying a famous masterpiece tells the world something. It says, "I belong to a club almost nobody can enter." And for billionaires, status itself has value. Owning a famous painting can open doors and create relationships that money alone cannot buy. But there is another reason the ultra-rich love art. One they discuss much less publicly: flexibility. Because art can be bought, sold, loaned, donated, insured, transported, and stored in ways that are often incredibly advantageous. And that flexibility creates opportunities unavailable to ordinary investors. Now we're entering one of the strangest parts of this story. Imagine a giant warehouse near an airport. No windows, minimal signs, heavy security. Inside, billions of dollars worth of art, rows and rows of masterpieces, paintings by history's greatest artists, sculptures worth tens of millions, treasures that most people will never see. These facilities are often called Freeports, and they have become legendary in the art world. A billionaire can purchase art and keep it stored in these highly secure locations for years, sometimes decades. The art may never hang in a home, never appear in a museum, never be viewed by the public. It simply exists, like money in a vault. Critics sometimes call these places the world's most expensive storage units. Supporters say they're simply secure facilities protecting valuable assets. Either way, enormous fortunes have spent years sitting inside these warehouses. And because ownership structures can be complex, tracing exactly who owns what can sometimes be difficult. This secrecy has made Freeports both fascinating and controversial. Because whenever huge sums of money move quietly through private systems, People naturally ask questions. Privacy is one of the art world's defining characteristics. Imagine buying a publicly traded company. Regulators may know, investors may know, journalists may know. Now imagine buying a painting. The experience can be entirely different. Many transactions occur privately. Representatives can negotiate deals. Advisors can participate. Companies can hold ownership. Trusts can own assets. Layers of privacy can exist between the artwork and its ultimate owner. For wealthy individuals, this discretion can be incredibly appealing. Think about it. If you owned a collection worth several $billion, would you want everyone knowing exactly where it is? Probably not. Privacy can enhance security, but critics argue that too much secrecy can create opportunities for abuse. Because whenever values are subjective and transactions are private, the system depends heavily on trust, and trust can sometimes be exploited. Let's talk about taxes, because this is where art becomes truly fascinating. Different countries have different tax laws. Different jurisdictions treat art differently. Different transactions can have different consequences. And wealthy collectors employ armies of accountants and lawyers to understand every rule. None of this is necessarily illegal. In fact, most of it operates entirely within the law, but it can be incredibly complicated. Imagine buying a painting for $10 million. Years later, it's worth $50 million. You haven't sold it. You simply own it. That increase in value exists largely on paper. Art can also be loaned, donated, transferred, inherited. Each scenario may involve different legal and financial considerations, depending on the country and circumstances. This complexity is one reason. Sophisticated collectors devote enormous resources to managing their collections. For some billionaires, their art collection isn't merely decoration. It's part of a broader wealth strategy, an asset class, a long-term store of value, and sometimes a legacy. Most billionaires don't wander into galleries and say, "Hey, that looks cool, I'll take it." They have experts, entire teams, art advisors, lawyers, insurance specialists, logistics companies, conservation experts, auction consultants. Some collections function almost like private investment funds. Experts monitor markets, study artists, track prices, assess risks, manage transportation, arrange loans to museums, coordinate sales. Everything is planned. Because once collections become worth hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, art stops behaving like decoration. It becomes infrastructure, a financial ecosystem. And that ecosystem has grown into a massive global industry. Here's the truly fascinating part. None of this changes what art is. A masterpiece remains a masterpiece. A beautiful painting remains beautiful. But art can exist in two worlds at once. To a museum visitor, it's inspiration. To an artist, it's expression. To a historian, it's culture. And to some of the wealthiest people on earth, it can also be a financial asset of extraordinary power. That's what makes art unique. It can be emotional and economic simultaneously. A painting can move someone to tears and also represent a fortune, beauty and money sharing the same canvas. Few assets can do that. So, how do the ultra-rich hide billions inside art collections? Sometimes they don't hide anything at all. Sometimes they're simply collecting art because they love it. Sometimes they're preserving culture. Sometimes they're making investments. And sometimes they're using an asset that offers privacy, portability, and flexibility unlike almost anything else in the financial world. A painting on a wall might just be art, or it might represent a fortune larger than the budget of an entire town. That's the mystery of the art market. The same object can be a masterpiece, a status symbol, a legacy, and a store of immense wealth. And somewhere tonight, inside a silent warehouse near an airport, there may be a painting worth hundreds of millions of dollars, not hanging in a museum, not displayed in a mansion, just sitting in darkness, waiting. Because in the hidden world of the ultra-rich, sometimes the most valuable bank vault on earth is a canvas covered in paint. If you enjoyed this investigation into the hidden economics of art, subscribe to The Art Detective, because next time we're uncovering another mystery where art, money, and human ambition collide.